Welcome to the Innerscape podcast.
Hi Judith.
Hi Tina and hi everyone. We are back today with a very special guest from London, the psychotherapist Mr Stathi Anthopoulos, who is going to help us to analyze a nowadays very popular, slightly overused and intricate topic, the narcissism. So, hi Stathi, thank you so much for joining us today. Would you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure, thank you for inviting me. I'm Greek, so I studied psychology and clinical psychology in Greece. And then in 2004 I moved to the UK, where I trained as a psychotherapist and a supervisor and a couples therapist. And I worked in mental health field, like in the NHS and therapeutic communities. But now I work exclusively privately. I have my own private practice where I work with individuals and couples, and I also supervise therapists.
Hi Stathi, I also want to welcome you in the show. And I would like to start with our first question about this topic of narcissism, because when people hear the word narcissism, certain images and ideas often come to their minds. But could you discuss some common perceptions or misconceptions about narcissism and how they align or differ from the clinical understanding?
Nowadays, I think most people have some idea about what narcissism is. It's a very hot topic. YouTube is full of people educating us around it.
Sure.
And we're going to join that queue.
Yes. And but also in the scientific arena, like researchers and academics are debating. The medical community is debating whether it should be a clinical diagnosis or not. Like it's something that there's a lot of different opinions about it, not just in the public domain, but even in the scientific arena. One common misconception, I think, let's start from there, is that narcissism is something bad, something that we shouldn't experience. If someone calls you a narcissist, we usually have a tendency to experience that there's some sort of judgment, right? But the reality is that narcissism is an absolutely normal drive that we have to feel special, to feel different, to feel unique, to feel better than average. So, what we're doing here, we want to be special, right? We want to be different. We don't just want to create something that already exists. There wouldn't be a point. So creativity and narcissism always go together. You can't have genuine creativity if you don't have some desire to create something new, something different, something that will make you feel special. It's not everything about narcissism is dirty.
I've heard that people, so there's an overlap between definitions, and people use the words sociopath, psychopath, and narcissist interchangeably. And I heard something that every psychopath is narcissistic, but not every narcissist is a psychopath.
Correct. Yes.
Right?
Yes. So narcissism is on a spectrum. So we have the healthy tendency to create something new, to feel that we matter to the people we love and they love us, and that we do feel special to them. That's very healthy and necessary if we are to have loving relationships. We also need to view our partners, our friends, our children as special. And actually there is a piece of research on that shows that the more exaggerated view we have of the goodness of our partners, the better the course of the relationship. The more loving, the more supportive the relationship. Yeah. Even if we have a deluded view of our partner as special, but we have to if we have to have a healthy relationship, we have to consider them as very special, and we usually see them better than they truly are in some ways. But we need this positive delusion if we are to have a successful relationship.
Okay. So we're kind of like directing narcissism on another person just to make this delusion that they look better than actually they are. Is it
Yes,
the thing, or?
exactly. Because on the other, since you mentioned psychopathy and sociopathy and all that stuff, the other end of the spectrum is that, or the unhealthy part, is when our need to feel special blinds us to the needs of other people. Like my need to become whatever successful because I think that's what will make me feel special, makes me oversee the needs of my children, makes me not pay attention to my partner's needs because it will take time of my precious, struggle to become rich or whatever it is that makes us feel special.
But if I understand well, someone who can be called a narcissist has an unreasonably high sense of their own importance. So they believe that they deserve more privileges and they just seek too much attention and admiration. So I think, as you said, there's a scale because we all want success and we all kind of self-absorbed, especially in big cities when it's a dog-eats-dog world and you have to be a little bit selfish to get by and succeed. But you can't call everyone a narcissist who just, cares about themselves.
This is exactly it. You have, you're absolutely right, because it is a matter of degree. There's nothing wrong with wanting to feel important. There's nothing wrong with wanting to feel admired. But if our need becomes so big that we sacrifice the health of our relationships, even our own health, people work themselves to death to get that validation of success or money or whatever it is, then it can become destructive for the person and others.
Okay, so even workaholics are considered narcissists in a way.
Not all workaholics are narcissists, but extreme narcissism can make someone a workaholic that kind of abuses themselves. They don't really allow space for any other needs that would take them away from working all the time, for example, or also by bullying colleagues because they expect the same from everyone, to support their project and their projection to the top.
Okay. Okay.
Again,
So
not all bullies are narcissists, but a lot of them are. Yeah. A lot of them are.
But to be a narcissist, it cannot be just harming yourself. It's always also about harming others around you, right?
Yes.
So that's kind of a trait of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's taking advantage of the others in order to achieve what we want. And as you said, it's all about the level of greed, because when we require excessive admiration and just people to look up to us or to feel superior and belittle other people and be just inconsiderate of others, this is when we can maybe talk more about narcissism, if I understand well.
Yes, and even consciously try to damage or undermine other people to feel better. Yeah.
Okay, so what are exactly the traits, or how can we recognize a narcissist that is already like harmful to society or others? Is there any, because I've seen also like different traits like non-verbal and verbal expressions.
So first of all, I think it's important to recognize that because narcissists also can be very, very good at hiding their intentions and their actions. So it's not always easy to recognize. Often they play games, or they draw people in games without their awareness. But I think it's important also to say that in order to diagnose someone, you have to be a trained mental health professional. But the qualities, the traits, let's say, that would lead someone to diagnose narcissism are extreme arrogance, self-interest, lack of empathy. In more extreme cases, pathological lying, manipulation, anything that would help someone to achieve a personal goal with or without the collaboration of others. So for a narcissist, the most important thing, or extreme narcissist, the most important thing is to feel special. If they will get that by making a lot of money, by getting the top job, by creating something, whatever it is, that becomes the most important thing. And in extreme cases, anything that becomes an obstacle to that has to be eliminated. So they can become very ruthless and inhumane. That's where we move towards psychopathy and sociopathy.
Okay, yeah. I mean, for me, it's still so hard to make the differentiation between, like, let's say, normal people with a little narcissistic qualities, and people can really like harm you with their narcissistic attributes. So I'm one of those people who like to read these articles like on social media platforms, like, oh, there's 10 signs that your partner is a narcissist and you're in a toxic relationship, and I'm like, click, 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 click. I'm like, I love to read these things.
But this is what you said.
Because I think it's like, no, it's okay. So they're interesting to see, because it's also like they can help you to understand. For people who are not in psychology studies, or like we don't know anything about these things, but at the same time they are really misguiding. So I just wanted to like really clarify, what are those traits, like when we have like someone constantly manipulating us and like always judging, and then they never take responsibility for what they did, or like eye rolls, or like, I don't know, you caught them lying and they would never admit, even if both of you know that it's not true what happened. And these things are like, I don't know, there's so many people doing that, but they're not all narcissists, right? So how can we really identify them?
Mm-hmm. A very good question, because we all...
Sorry, my question was that, is it necessary to identify them? Like, because you can't really do anything even if you identify. As you said, you click on this. Stathi said in the beginning that this is a very hot and trendy topic. So nowadays, obviously, journalists will jump on this train and they will post everything to fish the clicks.
Yeah.
But as I heard, that narcissists don't go to therapy. So this is one thing you can identify them, that they wouldn't seek help because they don't think they need help. So even if you identify them, like, there's not much you can do. Stathi, is your...
Yes, yes. It's not that narcissists don't go to therapy. Some do, and they can actually get recover, because it's an addiction. Especially, it's an addiction to feeling special, right? It's exactly the same as any addiction. That you would sacrifice your health or the people you love, their well-being, in order to experience something. That's an addiction. And narcissism is just an addiction. But then they need to have some level, some degree of insight, some awareness that, the road I'm taking is actually destructive to others and to myself. And that's one of the keys, that usually people with narcissistic process only get motivated to seek therapy or to change if they realize that the hurt that they're causing others is also hurting them. Or that by helping others, they are also supporting their own goals. If they get that, they can get into therapy and actually recover We know that now. It used to be, unfortunately, that's one of the problems of extreme labeling, because until very recently it was thought, even in medical circles, and still there is that idea that narcissism is untreatable. Certain personality disorders are untreatable. Now we know that's not always true, and there's plenty of research now to show that people with narcissistic process can actually recover. It's not easy, like any addiction. It's very hard. It requires a lot of work, usually years of personal work, but it is possible as long as they get it. That actually, I'm not gonna get what I want if I continue like this. Some people don't get that, however. Yeah. And to go to the relationships that you mentioned, if you realize that your partner again and again is unable to get some insight into the how much hurt they're causing you or themselves, because that's another trait of extreme narcissism. There's a lack of remorse. So what if you hurt? It's really important what I'm trying to do here. So what if I don't spend time with you? You know, I'm trying to get the Nobel Prize or whatever it is.
Okay.
So trying to answer Tina's question, to summarize, do I see it right that you can say someone is narcissist if these traits are extreme and they can't see the other point? It's everything that you have already mentioned, just very one-sided. So I'm superior, I'm better than everyone, I deserve everything, I'm privileged, I'm entitled, I go as a bull to achieve all my goals, and I walk through the dead body, but I don't see that. I don't consider the other person. I don't see that it might be a bad thing, and I don't feel guilt or shame to do all this.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. But also, it might narcissists are not always arrogant, bigger than life, exhibitionistic kind of personalities. It can be the opposite. They can be very shy, very vulnerable, but still have a huge need to feel special, and kind of brood in resentment, and again cause a lot of harm to themselves and others. I had lots of these traits. Like I was, because I come from a family with lots of narcissists, the big ones that take a lot of space. I had to really shrink myself, and also try to earn a sense of self-worth by achieving things. You know, I have bachelor's, I have 2 masters, I'm doing a PhD. I did every training that is available to get the sense of now. That's also narcissism. And to some degree, it was being destructive. Like there was a period where I really was not antisocial, but unsocial. I wasn't really spending a lot of time with friends. I was quite disengagey. Like my friends had to really fight to keep me, to meet me even, you know. That's narcissism. And I still have that passion, you know, and I never stop learning. I love learning, but I also had to make space to recognize other needs, both of mine and of my friends, my partners, you know. But I've been in therapy for 20 years. So it takes work. Yeah.
Amazing.
You said, Tina, that you recognize these relational patterns.
Yeah, I've been in some sort of this relationship, like toxic relationship, where I was there was manipulation on both sides, but mostly I was manipulated, and I recognized it, and I went along with the game, because I guess that was I don't know, my attraction to this person in that moment. And manipulation is also another, I guess, trait, and I recognize that this is just destroying, and it's not fun anymore. But the other person was still trying to manipulate me and control my life, and you know, the way I could get out of it was like to really hurt this person and his ego. Otherwise, I would not survive. I felt like I would not survive in this relationship. And yeah, I don't know. I'm still like, I don't know how to diagnose which one is like super abusive and dangerous and which one is like part of us, kind of our narcissistic qualities, which is normal. Traits, yeah. So I believe that until you really work on it, you can change these things, because I've seen it in other people as well who were not my close relationship, but I've seen that they changed because they considered at some point that, okay, I'm hurting people, so empathy came to them. And I'm a huge empath. Like, I know that I could not be a narcissist, because even if I had qualities as everyone else, now that I know about it, it's I just don't see that I could consciously hurt people like I was hurt. But yeah, do you think that people are born like this, or it develops? Because I also read an article, this was more trustful than these 10 narcissistic qualities on Facebook, but like I read that you're not actually born with it, but you develop it in your childhood, in your early childhood, due to a lot of stress in your life, and your brain basically doesn't develop on the control of emotions part of your brain, so your limbic part of your brain, I guess. So do you know anything about this, or could you explain me if this is true? Or
I'm not a neuropsychologist. There's people who specialize in that. But from my readings, there is a strong genetic element. So, for example, we see twins, and these kind of studies have shown that it is inherited to some degree, the tendency. But as most things, it's not either or. It's not either genetic or environmental. It's the interaction of that. Actually, there's a very famous book written by a professor of neuropsychology, a neuroanatomist, a very famous American guy. He died a few months ago, Professor James Fallon, who one of his specializations was he was an authority on the neuroimaging of psychopathy. So reading the scans of psychopathic brains. And at some point in his career, quite late, he scanned himself and his whole family as part of a project, research project that he was doing, and he realized that his own brain was psychopathic. Very clearly. And and he's written a book called The Psychopath Inside. Very, very interesting book. And then he went and he interviewed all his friends or his family. He said, "Do you think I'm a psychopath?" And everyone said, "Well, we all, we know you're not the most warm guy, but you've never hurt any one of us. When we know that you come to our place and you're mainly interested in how you will have a good time, but you make us also have a good time." So Fallon says that he attributes the fact that he did not become a hurtful person because he had an amazing family. Very caring, very loving, very supportive, present, empathic. And to go back to the narcissistic genesis, what research shows is that it's not the lifting of the ego or the boosting of the ego of the child that creates narcissists. It's actually the lack of empathy, sometimes combined with high expectations or ego boosting. Or you're amazing because the parent projects, the narcissistic abuses comes out of seeing other people as projections of myself, as extensions of myself, as objects or appliances to get my needs met. So the narcissistic parent can do that, but it's the lack of empathy that creates narcissistic children.
Yeah.
And for you,
Oh.
you said you're an empath. You said you're an empath, right?
Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
feel that I'm an empathetic person towards others. I always care a lot about other people's feelings and yeah. Why are you gonna analyze me? I feel it. Oh, you're gonna say
Yes, I
something.
am.
It's a trait for narcissistic people. Extreme narcissistic people are calling themselves empaths.
Actually, there's yes, it can be if you're only empathetic with others and not with yourself, which happens if you grow up, for example, with narcissistic parents, and you become a therapist because you're conditioned, you're trained to just listen and not have your own voice. Then that can also be narcissistic in its own way. That you're not really having genuine relationships, it's like we call them egoists. The myth of Narcissus. So Narcissus was a very, very handsome man, the son of a god. Everyone was
Yeah.
falling in love with him, women, men, including one nymph, Echo, who didn't have her own voice, so she could only echo back. She could only reflect what she was hearing because she had a dispute with another goddess. She used to talk a lot, so she took her voice away. So she was in love with Narcissus. She would follow Narcissus around. At some point, Narcissus was in the woods, and he heard something. So he shouted, "Is anybody there?" Actually, in some versions, says, "Is anybody here?" Implying that narcissists don't care about the other, like they're self-referential. But he called for her, and she responded, "Here, here." So he got angry with her, like, "Is anybody here?" Said, "Here, here." Eventually, she came out of the bushes and she tried to hug him, but he pushed her away. So he rejected her love, and then she got very sad. She withered, and her body disappeared, and only her voice remained. Now, another goddess saw that, Nemesis, and decided to punish Narcissus with his own medicine. So she cursed him to fall in love with himself. So one day, as Narcissus was walking in the forest, he felt thirsty. He went to a pond, a little lake, and as he bent to drink water, he saw his own reflection on the water, and he got mesmerized by the beauty of that man and he tried to convince him to come out and be with him, but of course the other man wouldn't. And according to one myth, Narcissus jumped into the lake trying to get that man and disappeared in the lake forever. And according to another myth, he just couldn't leave because he got mesmerized by the image of his own self on the water, and he just died there because he couldn't leave. He got so attached to the image, like a narcissist gets attached to the self-image. And then a beautiful flower, Narcissus, sprang there. How did we get there? About egoists, right? Echo. So Echo can fall in the trap of only forming narcissistic relationships, where she just keeps that position of I don't have my own needs, I don't have my own voice, whatever you want, right? Which is also a conditioning that we need to work on.
So yeah, now I just got it, like why you wanted to say, like, okay, maybe empath people as well can be narcissistic. I mean, in my case, I cannot relate to this because I had always like amazing relationship except this one, and I learned my lesson. But it's interesting to see it also in this way, that okay, be careful, because you might think you're an empath, but you can have also narcissistic attributes.
relating to the question you asked, Tina, about upbringing and do people born with this or get conditioned, I read something that about 80% of narcissists are men and 20 are women. It's apparently it's growing, so we are actually overtaking the glass ceiling quicker in this case than in any other field in the world. So yeah, but the reason of this is that boys from a very young age are being told to not to express their feelings, their emotions, to keep it down, and because it's not manly, therefore they toughen up at a very young age. They condition to toughen up, so later it creates imposter syndrome, it creates an unhealthy chase of success, and this is why these people become businessmen, CEOs, politicians, and there are certain industries where there are significantly more narcissist people than others, like in finance, in business CEOs, in the entertainment industry, actors, pop stars, people who think they're worth more than others, but kind of boys are being pushed into this journey. What do you think about this, Stathi? Can you confirm?
Absolutely. What you said, that boys are not supported to express their emotions and their needs for support. That's exactly at the root of narcissistic process, because if you're told that you cannot be vulnerable and talk about it to others, you learn that you are being you develop exactly that focus on the self, that relationships are not trustworthy, are not supportive, I can't go to others. And this is the difference this is the essence of the narcissistic process, that it's not a self-alienation, it's more of an alienation of the self in relationship. I cannot be in relationship. They value their self as opposed to their self in relationship. That's the difference. So if you learn that you cannot be your feelings and accept it with that, with your vulnerability, with your needs, and every narcissistic behavior is a defense against feeling vulnerable, against feeling deficient, against feeling needy, having needs, needing others. So I think you're right on point there.
So
this is the cure, if you want, to support people with narcissistic process, understand that it's safe to be vulnerable, that people actually enjoy them more if they are fully authentic, that they won't judge them. This can to empathize with them. This can allow them to come out of the shell.
So we're talking here about a very toxic perfectionism, right? With an underlying insecurity. So these people, I believe, then they are afraid of criticism and they don't accept any other opinion, and they I don't know, they maybe avoid situations but they can fail because they just want to prove they're perfect, and they're afraid of, I don't know, they might have a bad temper or anger or they're moody if they don't get what they want, but there's lots of vulnerability behind that if I can't face challenges. Is that right?
Exactly, yeah. I think perhaps one important thing, it's a little bit theoretical, but it might help grasping how we all are narcissistic, but not necessarily, or what's the difference between healthy and unhealthy narcissism as a process, as an inner process, is that we all need to have a sense of self, right? We all need to know what makes me feel good, what makes me feel like myself, what makes me feel valuable. There's nothing wrong with that. The question is how rigid or flexible is that idea that I have of myself, that image. If I get some information, some relational, for example, information, that my image of myself is not 100% accurate, am I willing to review that and flex that and enrich it and make my self-concept bigger? Or am I clinging to that? No, that's what gives me value. That's what makes me valuable and important as a person. And anything that contradicts that, I will attack. That's the fragility of the narcissism that you described in terms of the fear of criticism, for example. It's that rigid clinging to a self-image, that this is who I am, because that's where my value lies, and anything that threatens that, I will rage against. That's the narcissistic rage, they call it. I will rage against it, I will try to eliminate it, I will avoid, I will gaslight. That's where all the abusive behaviors come from. Because because of that fear of connecting with my vulnerability, with recognizing, oh fuck, I got that wrong. I thought you needed me to be perfect, right? The narcissists need to be able to do that if there's hope for change. But okay, I don't have to be perfect for you. So they need lots of acceptance and empathy and love to be able to start loving themselves truly. Because narcissists don't love themselves. They love the idea of who they need to be. That's not love.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not my job, you know. I'm not my money. That's not where my value lies.
Yeah.
Wow.
Identifying yourself with external things is not healthy in a way. But also, like, I think going back to what you did mention, that why do we need to understand if someone is a kind of abusive narcissist or not? Why is it good for us? But I think it's good because when it happens to be in our family or within our friend circle or even in a relationship, which is still possible to be saved. I don't know, maybe not. I don't know when is the moment when you have to run and give up on these people, and when is it still like you can still be there for them and show them a different way because you see that they're not completely controlled by this behavior. So I think it's for me, but for me it brings consolidation, or like I feel better to know that okay, they're just people like with people with addiction. So maybe it's not going to be forever cured, but it makes me feel better that I can feel more empathetic towards them, that it's not their personality, it's not them, it's just a kind of like a sickness or something that's controlling them as well, because sometimes they're not in knowing of that they're doing the harm to other people. They convince themselves that is true, all the lies and whatever they are manipulating and doing to others, but they convince themselves that it's true, and at the end it's not. So I don't know what you think about this. Like, do we have to cut them out of our lives, or is there a chance to save them, especially when they're in close family relationships with us?
Yeah, if you have children with a narcissistic person, you'll have to usually maintain some level of contact. If you depend on them for whether it's your parents and you're still, you have to find ways to maintain contact and protect yourself. But again, there's levels and degrees. Sometimes the only solution, because addictions can be, you can recover from addiction, but sometimes addictions kill. And narcissism can kill. You know, there are extreme cases of narcissists that actually take their own lives or kill others. So it's not that I understand the person is suffering, therefore I will just be empathetic. That can be dangerous. Safety. You have to think of safety in some situations.
Okay.
Stathi, you mentioned that you experienced narcissistic abuse in your family. Did you cut contact with that or those people?
Yeah, after 40 years.
Would you talk a little bit?
After.
But,
It took me 40 years. It took me 40 years. Yeah. It's very difficult. it's very difficult to come out of a relationship. We are relationships. Our identity is formed in relationship and consists of relationships.
I'm asking this because there is someone very close to me who is just about to cut ties with their parents because of the same reason, and she's been preparing for this for a year, and I know it's going to be very difficult. So can you give any advice to people who want to leave a relationship, even a partnership, a marriage, or just like say goodbye forever to their parents who are narcissistic?
And now we're going on a little break.
Yes, we don't want to take up too much of your time, so we have decided to release this episode in 2 parts. So there's a little cliffhanger here, and we will continue next week. Thank you very much for being with us today, and see you next time.
See you. Ciao.